Welcome to the study of the 12th chapter of the book of Revelation. We call it the historic chapter. And we call it that because we're going to show you where this chapter doesn't seem to go with the chapters before it in the book of Revelation. It doesn't seem to go with the chapters after it in the book of Revelation. And it seems to be right in the middle. And we kind of feel that it may be that God showed John all these different things. And he said, but before I show you the other part of it and the rest of it, we're going to have to give you some background about the Godhead and how we came about. And so this is called the historic 12th chapter because we believe that this happened before God ever created man on earth. And it gives us a scenario of the different, shall we say, key people involved in all this great plan of God. So we're going to get into it now, and it says, on 12:1, it says, And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. We know from this that there was a woman in heaven. This woman was even before Eve. So Eve wasn't the first woman. This woman was the first woman. So God created this woman, and she was bringing forth a child. And we believe that this child is Jesus Christ, who is the only begotten Son of God. That's what makes him different than all the other sons of God. We know there are other sons of God because in the book of Job, the first chapter talks about the sons of God came before him. But there is only one begotten Son. We know that from John 3:16. It says, And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. Now, back then, there were 3 archangels. There was Lucifer, there was Gabriel, and there was Michael. Each one of them was in charge of 1/3 of all the angels of God. Lucifer was in charge of his third, the other 2 were in charge of their third. But it says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Throughout the whole Bible, stars and angels, the word are interchanged so many different times that I almost believe that the stars that we see in heaven at night are actually angels, which they are there in the daytime too. If you see a falling star, it could be an angel that's on a mission. This is. Well, I'm not saying that this is what the Word of God says, but it is a possibility. Let's go on. It says, And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Let's talk about the chain of command in heaven. It used to be God the Father, then Lucifer, and then Michael and Gabriel. Now here this child was about to be born. And as we know from the next verse, actually, it says, And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. So we know that this child was supposed to be a great ruler. Well, Lucifer possibly thought that this child was going to become number 2 right behind God, like he was. And so he was trying to devour this child to protect his status and his placing in the chain of command. If Satan could have understood the beauty of the Trinity and that the 3 are one, they act as one, he would have never had to try to devour this child. But because he didn't understand the Godhead like we understand it now, he would not have even had to do this. He still could have been number 2 because Jesus Christ rules with God, his Father, as if they were one. It says, And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And we had talked, when we were talking about the Antichrist in the 7 seals, we had talked about the great blasphemy, that we knew that, or we've been taught since we were little kids, that there was a war in heaven and Satan was cast down to earth. And now, and in the great blasphemy, we were saying, because of the way the world is going to look at that time, Satan's going to try to convince us and deceive us by saying, no, he actually won that war in heaven. That's why he's in control. He may seem like he's in control, but he is not. But they were cast out of heaven at that time. Now we know that Satan was on earth when God created Adam and Eve, because he was in the form of the serpent then. He was already here on earth whenever God created Adam and Eve. So this must have happened before Adam and Eve were even created. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So here we have the different names that we know Satan by, except for the word Lucifer, because that was his title when he was an angel of God. He lost that title when he lost his position with God. He says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. God knew, they knew in heaven at that time, that Jesus Christ was going to end up being the one that brings salvation to mankind later on. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Now, they knew that this ruler that was born, this child, his only begotten son, God knew that he was going to have to give his life for man when God created man, because all of this was set up way in advance. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. People wonder why Satan tries to do all the different things that he does. It's because he knows his days are numbered. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. A lot of people when they're studying prophecy will say that times and half a time is 3.5 years. They're saying time is one. But I look at it differently. I look at it as time is singular, times is plural, and a half a time is a fraction of time. So it doesn't matter what segment of time you want to call it. She is going to be nourished for all times. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. You think about it now. We have drinking water throughout this world, and where does all of it come from almost? It comes out of the ground usually. That the earth, God will take something that Satan means for bad, and he'll make it work out to where it's for good. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Satan is now going to fight the children of God as long as he possibly can. His whole purpose and his whole destiny now is to try to create havoc as much as possible. But we know from this chapter that Jesus Christ is God's only begotten Son. That it wasn't because he was born on earth, he was born in heaven. And I believe that God looked at that creation and said, wow, this is great. So then he ended up saying, let us make man in our own image. He was talking to his son who was there. So that's where the birthing system and everything else of man comes from, is from the fact that God did this in heaven before he ever did it on earth, and he saw that it was good. And he created man and created a world for man, for we could be like him because we are created in his image. Jesus Christ came and paid the price that we could live with God and with Jesus the Son for eternity. That is our 12th chapter. Thank you very much.